I think you did well there, my bro. Listen, there's nothing a tripod can't sort out at the end of the day.
In a bit of duct tape.
My bro, duct tape and a little clamp there and I hit him.
Hello.
3.
We're recording now.
Yeah, are you on the is that speakers or that's
Those were speakers. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, Kurt Schoonraad. They're going nuts. No, those were speakers in COVID. When we came out of COVID, you know we must did half room, third of the room. Then you can't get it. Then you can't afford a DJ with you, and you can't afford to rent gear because the show isn't making real money. You're just trying to feed families. So you support speakers.
Remember.
Just bought speakers.
For those of you who don't know, this bro is a practical smosey, my bro.
Basically.
Proud of the camera, proud of the speaker. No, but listen, it's good to smose, my bro. At the end of the day, you gotta size things up or down to what it is that you need.
100%.
And it's senseless just cutting and pasting, my bro. Because you know, since that business, that comedy club, I've become very cautious about what I take on.
Yes.
Because pre-COVID, I was a bit buckgut, you know. It was quite easy or eager to take on things.
Yeah.
And there was an opportunity to take it on, and there was all kinds of resources we could have used to take it on. The world is a different place since then.
So just to start off, people don't know. Now, everyone don't know this. Kurt owned the Cape Town Comedy Club.
I'm shocked.
That.
Most people don't know that.
People don't know that. I don't think people put you... Because you've got the character, the comedy guy, and then they don't know that you ran this high-end establishment for years.
Yeah.
But I'm glad just because we were going to talk about this anyway. The appetite, like before COVID and the appetite after COVID, so different for us. Because we went from, there was options and there were no options, and then you just had to, because it wasn't just your business, it was all the comedy clubs in the country, which was 2.
Yeah.
You were, Joe was in Cape Town, closed.
Joe was in Joburg, but you were close.
Joe was in Joburg.
Yeah. And you know, if you look at institutionalized comedy, and there was an institution pre-COVID.
Yeah.
There was there were ranks, there were levels, there were tiers of comedy.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID. And to imagine, if you had told me in 2019 that by 2020 that would have all been over. For all intents and purposes. I would have thought you crazy, bro. To be very honest. 100%. Because we had a consistent, beautiful growth of comedy from about 99 all the way to 2019.
Yes.
That was good 20 odd years, bro.
There was a time when I was, and listen, I'm a couple of generations after you. There was a time when I could come into Cape Town, play your club for the week and other gigs.
Yeah.
Make money and go home.
Indeed.
There was a time where I could do a club gig, not corporates, not my own show. There was a time I could do a club gig every night in Joburg. Yeah. That is all gone.
So the question from the people that know the comedy club, I get a lot of the when are we doing something again type of vibe. And there's so much has changed that I don't know if it's possible to do it again. Not the same way.
Why do you say that?
I think the landscape of comedy has changed quite a bit. So what happened after COVID, and this is just an information thing, to recap, because you know it well. The middle and the lower tier of stand-up comedy disappeared post-COVID.
Yes.
All the guys that were developing, they were starting to get into to the middle tier. Guys who were open micing for 4 or 5 years, they just started to get their confidence level. You know, it takes you about 5 years to find your voice.
5 years to become a decent middle spot.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Most people don't understand the investment you've got to make. They say it in this game, it takes about 10 years to become an overnight success.
100%.
And it's a contradiction in terms, but it's also very true. It takes a long time to develop. The confidence, the personality, the stage persona. So it's an investment of time. It's almost like it's very difficult to explain it to somebody who hasn't been through it. But it takes you, for us, or for me, fortunately enough, I was interested enough in it. It was lekker enough that it didn't feel like work.
Yes, same.
But I look back at it now and I'm like, yes, that took a long time because a lot of the time I wanted to get onto stage and off it as fast as possible, go through the gags that I wrote as cleanly as possible, and then go home.
Yes.
There was no time for audience interaction. And so as you get older and you become more experienced at it, now, I say my comedy's changed completely now. I don't use the material the way I used to. The material now is more of a pit stop where I can catch my breath and go into Alfred in the first row who told me that he just got married.
Yeah.
So I will constantly work on and I won't do it intentionally, but my mind will work on Alfred when we go through another piece of material and I'll go, so Alfred, do you still sleep in your own bed? Or do they have those marriage references all the time? Yeah. So I think...
Like a little bit more crowd work, a little bit more interaction.
Well, a lot more honesty.
Okay.
A lot more honesty. And I find, and I'm writing a new show at the moment, which was probably the leckerest thing in the world and the cuckest thing all at the same time.
Me and you are both, my friend.
My son, I stared at that blank paper like I said, what the hell is funny?
Yeah.
So I've got Dave Levinson directing for me.
Okay.
This time out.
That is like for everyone that doesn't know, that is a thing to say. Dave Levinson is a brilliant comedian. I've never seen him sit still though.
I've never seen him. I've never seen him. And he's a good mate of mine. We've worked together for 20 plus years. He was there when I started out. I've never ever seen him do the same set twice. Never. So
I've seen that man do things that like make an audience cry, walk out with props he got in the foyer.
That's Dave.
Yeah.
So now he's teaching me some Dave skills. Or like we would say where I come from, he's learning me some Dave skills. So I'm learning about telling the truth. He tunes me. People will find you funny. Your whole vibe is funny. Your approach is funny. Your facial expressions is funny. Your body language is funny. Yeah. Just tell them the truth that you never thought you could use on stage.
Yeah.
Like that time I almost killed my dad, you know?
You see, those moments, and I want to get back to the comedy thing, the club thing, that thing about honesty and understanding the difference between funny and not funny is something that seems so simple, but is so difficult to get to.
Man, I think it's also, I find it, when I try it, I find out that it's not as difficult as I thought it was.
Mm-mm.
But I'm also figuring out that half this job is to not be afraid of the empty gaps in between. And I've been afraid of the empty gaps for
years.
For years. So you don't want the empty gaps if you don't know where you're going to.
Yeah.
If I'm setting it up for something, I'm like, no, wait, I'll get you now.
Yeah.
But when you're saying something and you're not sure where this line's going, you're not sure where that piece is, and this is the beautiful thing about a one-man show versus club comedy.
Yeah.
In a club space, you got to keep the machine gun fire going, bro. You got to keep it going because you only got 10, 15, 20 minutes.
And an audience that didn't come to see you necessarily.
Exactly. So you've got that period of time to make the impact you want to.
Yeah.
Then the one-man show gives you the opportunity to meander a little bit, to go off the subject, to go where there isn't a laugh for 3 minutes.
Yes.
Because you're setting up something, you're setting up a story, you're sculpting the scene. You know, like essentially stand-up comedy, we're storytellers.
Yes.
In no one's terms, you're storytellers. So to start off the movie in your head, in their head, you're going to tell them, listen, man, I was on a soccer field one day. And this Halse was playing across me in my position. So when I ran towards him, he didn't move at all. Now immediately you've pictured all of that.
Yeah.
Now you know I'm going to get bliksem from this in one way or another. But this is exactly it. It's that storytelling. Once you put them in the position, now you can play with that piece of clay and you can make this oak bigger, stronger, different. It could be, man, it could be anything.
Yeah.
But once you tell the story and you get into the story, for me now, the story is more important than the punchline.
You know, and it's so difficult because an audience that don't understand what we're talking about is sitting there. Yeah. Right? But I go, like, absolutely. Yeah. The punchline is just, it's that. I try and fill that story with as much laugh as possible.
Exactly.
And the longer you do it, the better you get it.
And sometimes sculpting the scene for it is sculpting the scene is the most important part. So I'm writing a piece of material about wildlife in South Africa at the moment. Right? And I'm not talking about the obvious big five here.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the cockroach I saw in my kitchen the other day.
Yeah.
That was so big, my bro. He had like a Hyundai chappy at the back. It looked like a I-10.
A little drops his...
So now when you picture that, you go, okay, now that's a...
so groot ding.
And then, you know, there's also this... So observation is very important for stand-up.
Yes.
For people that are watching this. So wildlife can mean a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
Like the pigeon on the Grand Parade with that one poachy that's always like... It looks like it's got a clubbed foot. And the one eye don't graft so lekker. Now, if you put that into a story, immediately Cape Townians will go, I know what you're talking about. Because we've seen that pigeon.
Yes, it becomes vivid.
We've seen that pigeon. I have fed that pigeon breadcrumbs at this... on Darling Street on a party one day, and I was like, what is going on here? Or, you know, these German tourists that are feeding the squirrels.
Yes.
In the company gardens. And you tune that German tourist who I brought there went, that's not a squirrel. It doesn't have a furry tail. It's not a squirrel.
So what is your process? And I'll tell you mine. I go, like I'm writing a new show now. So I've gathered bits, right? That I haven't tried yet because, like you said, the bottom and the middle of comedy's fallen away. So when that happened, I'm not able to go out and do club gigs like I used to. I used to be able to do club gigs, but good club gigs.
Yeah, that's the difference. There are club gigs right now.
Yeah.
And that's my problem. And I don't want to diss anybody because, you know, we're all there.
We're all there and trying
We're all there.
stuff.
So I get invited to do these club gigs from time to time. And I've got a couple of prerequisites that I need to put in place. The first thing I ask is there a cover charge at the door?
Yes, very important.
And they go, no, there's no cover charge at the door. And I'm like, I can't play your gig. I can't play your gig. They go, but I'm going to pay you $5,000 to play the gig. I said, that's very nice, and thank you, I'd love to take your $5,000. The problem is that I can't do that gig because you're placing the wrong philosophy on comedy lovers in that you can get comedy for free.
Yes, you can't do
How am I going to justify my $200 ticket at the Baxter in May
100%.
if I cannot justify it tonight at the show?
Yes.
What it does is it just poisons the chalice. It poisons the wells for next time.
Yeah.
So even if there's a $50 cover charge at the gig, I'm still able to do that gig because there's an investment from an audience.
Yes, absolutely. And you see, when you were the performer, the difference between free and even 20 Rand is vast because they take the show seriously.
Man,
you know?
There's a very famous one that a famous beatboxer does. And he's a lovely man. We get along like a house on fire. We always did.
Yeah.
And I did it once, but because I didn't really ask. And it's a very popular pizza franchise that he does them at, right?
Yeah.
And I got into a bit of I won't say an argument, but I got into a bit of a tit-for-tat thing with the oak at the table that was in front of me.
Okay.
And then he had his back face to the audience. And he had his back face to the stage.
Yes.
So I was like, "Ek sê, my bro, I'm over here, you know. Maybe you want to turn around because, you know, do you point your back at the TV when you're watching it as well?" Now, of course, now the rest of the audience is laughing and he's pissed off. He's like, "Man, I came here to spend some time with my friend I haven't seen for 10 years.
Yes.
Like, I didn't come here to listen to you. No offense, you know." And it was then I realized, hold on a minute. There's no investment from this guy.
Yeah.
All he wants to do is spend time with his brother. And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
100%.
So what I've done is I've literally built a comedy club around his reunion party.
Yeah.
And that's not cool either. So I've got to be I'm very cautious about what I do. Also, these free gigs create a vibe around what you can expect of comedy. And so what it does immediately, it also separates the amateurs from the pros. There's some comics that are very happy to just be comedians. They go up on the stage and they do their 10 minutes and they were happy to do that for the rest of their lives if they can.
Yes.
I'm not one of those comics though. For me, I've decided a long time ago to make a living from it.
Yeah.
I've got to have a certain standard I've got to hit. But then also I put a lot of work into doing it.
100%.
I put a lot of writing skill into it. I pay someone to direct it. I book the theater. You know, to book a theater.
Oh man,
is
you're
expensive. It's
speaking
impossible.
everything about everything I need to, like, the public to understand is all the stuff you've just said, that this isn't for me as well. Same as you. For me, this is a very serious affair that I love to do.
Yes.
So I cannot come out to a even if you're charging a cover charge and the bar is open and it's in the middle of I once got, and we've all gone through these gigs. The last time, and I've had a last time for every one of them, where I go, the gig is paying, there's a cover at the door, but the bar is so loud no one can hear.
You got this little notepad in your head, you're like,
because the audience, because the audience leaves and they go, that guy was terrible, but they don't tell you it, because their perceptions, it's fleeting. So like they don't go, oh, but the bar was loud, I couldn't really hear everything he was saying, so the punchline made no sense.
And stand-up is such a subtle thing, and it requires a very specific set of parameters in place for it to work properly.
Yes.
Like, I'm also not a big fan of outdoor gigs.
I don't do them.
I've played a couple of them before.
I'll do them, but I've never done like a one-man show outdoors. People always go, let's do it outside. I go, nope.
I've tried it once or twice. Also, but then there are other subtleties that the average oak would never think about. I've never used a countryman, which is a microphone over here. Right? For those of you who don't know, that's my lightsaber hand, man. My microphone is my lightsaber. I've got 25 years of lightsaber experience.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with this hand. Eventually what happens is my hand just ends up going here. With no microphone.
It's weird, eh?
It's weird because it's years and years and years of conditioning.
Yeah.
And also what happens is the microphone becomes a tool unto itself. So it becomes a prop.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna create a vibe where I'm launching things, microphone becomes a thing,
Yeah.
It's a prop, it's the...
Yeah.
Without that, I don't know what to do with the right hand.
100%.
I'll move around, and occasionally, if I need to use both hands, I use the mic stand and use both hands.
Yeah.
But then there are comedians who are very comfortable using just that.
Dude, I've seen it. I saw it now with Mark. Mark can do both.
Yeah.
I feel so weird. People at corporate events will go, don't you want to? Give me my mic. I'm also like that. So coming back to the club, the club, when it started, it wasn't the spit-shine gem that was at the waterfront at the end. No. It was you started where? You started it as a gig.
Well, what had happened was we were with a group called the Cape Comedy Collective right at the beginning. Yeah. Mark was part of it. Stuart Taylor, Nick Rabinowitz, even guys like Kagiso Letiga, David Cow, we were all part of it at the beginning. Yeah. The whole center of the universe revolved around the Armchair Theatre on a Sunday evening.
Yeah.
And that was the start of everything. And as the years progressed, the guys who initiated all of this, Sam Pearce and Mark Sampson, the English couple, they got me involved in stand-up the first time, actually.
Okay.
And they had gone on to do some other things. And the Cape Comedy Collective was now defunct. And there was also a bit of a vacuum where we needed something consistent and something that we could get the stage time we needed, because stage time is everything.
Yeah.
You're only as good as the stage time you get.
Yeah.
So I started a thing called Yomasa Comedy Club.
Yes.
Yomasa Comedy Club was started by myself and my missus. Now, here's a real weird thing. My missus, a German national.
Yeah.
She has so much experience with South African comedy, no one will ever know about her. But she had put her house on a second bond to start a comedy club. She is the biggest custodian of South African comedy that no one will ever know about.
They're going to know now.
They're going to know now.
Yeah.
Now, she's a ninja. She's a proper ninja. Her name is Catering, and we started Yomasa Comedy Club together. We started at a place called the Albert Hall, the Royal Albert Hall.
Yes.
What's just called the Royal Albert Hall, not the one in London, the one in Woodstock.
Yes.
And that was a fantastic room, bro.
At this point, how long have you been doing comedy? You were already Kurt Schoonraad.
I was already Kurt Schoonraad. I'd already gotten some big accolades. I'd already done Going Nowhere Slowly. Yeah. I already hosted the stand-up show on SABC3.
Yeah.
So I was already well into my career. It was a good 15 years ago.
Okay.
we started Yomasa Comedy.
And you've been doing comedy for how long?
I was doing comedy for about 10 years at that stage.
Okay, so you 25 years
I'm
in.
25 years into it now.
Yeah.
When you say it like that, it sounds like a really long time.
It's a long time.
It is a long time. About the same amount of time. I remember Mark Lottering had started just like a year or two before me.
Yes. Yeah.
A very good friend of ours, Paul Snodgrass, who is now passed
Snoddy,
on.
yeah.
Snoddy was part of that, and
Yeah.
it was a buzz. It was a buzz. So anyway, we started at the Royal Albert, the Albert Hall in Woodstock in Victoria Road, and that was great. And moved along. I mean, everyone came to play there. Riyad Musa was a regular feature there.
Yeah. Everyone.
Everybody. You played that room at one stage.
I hadn't. I started about 13 years ago.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it was a bit later when I got onto the scene.
So once that, eventually we needed to move that to a space where it was a lot safer because Woodstock was still Timaka back then. There was a Tik 10 4 doors down the road. And my sister was doing the door at the time, and I knew it wasn't even a if, it was a when.
They're
gonna slut the place, you know what I mean? Because there's tons of people walking in and out all the time, and then every week someone's car got messed with, and eventually I was like, nah, man, I don't want to do this to the audience. I had a word with the guys at the River Club.
Yes,
and we moved to the River Club then.
Yes.
After a gap of about 3 months, we moved to the River Club, and it was still Yomasa Comedy Club. Then that was then that Des Mackay joined me.
Yes, we all know Des.
The Des became a centerpiece in all of that. So Des joined me then, and we started up the River Club. The River Club was very successful. We went on from strength to strength there. So most people don't know
that was Sunday gigs, right?
That was Thursday nights. Every Thursday night. But we would put in some nights 400 people in that room on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And we would.
It was a thing to do.
It was a thing to do. And there was tons of parking, and that was a big part of it. And it was literally, I could trip at my door and fall into the River Club, which was great. So I could walk across the road if I needed to.
Yeah.
And then that grew from strength to strength. Eventually, we had to move from one room to another, to a bigger room and a bigger room. And eventually, I went to the River Club guys and I went, give me a Friday and a Saturday night. We could pack this place out. Yeah. We could bring the brand here. And they went, we've got our regular clients. Anyway, long story short, I went, let's start looking for a place. And I was in the waterfront. We walked past that, what became the comedy club. It was a big open room at the time. Yeah. And it was used to keep the broken parking meters in.
Really? That big space?
That big space. It was also like one of those laser quest type of rooms. So there was a lot of little mazes in there. And as you opened the door, there was a whole lot of old parking meters there.
There was stories.
And then I went in there and I was like, yeah, bro, this is the room.
Yeah.
This is the room.
This is not just a room. This brings internationals in.
This is... Yeah. It's right there where the port is. It's right there where all the tourists are. At the time, it was owned by the Dubai group. And I couldn't even organize a meeting with that lot, to be very honest. But as time went on, I didn't forget about this room. We were still at the River Club. And Growth Point had just taken over the waterfront at the time.
Okay.
And I requested a meeting with him. They went, okay, come and have a chat with us. Because that room was open for about 15 years already at that stage. It was just open.
Doing nothing.
Doing nothing.
Prime real estate, man.
Nothing, bro. Right? Where it was, I mean, that whole place was in a development mode at the time. They were just started the market next door. There was another market across the road from us, which was also... Anyway, long story short, they were just about to renovate that whole area, which means that the first year of the comedy club was a building site. And that was the reason for us getting a really good deal on it, you know. It was still expensive as all out, to be quite honest. And then,
because it's waterfront. It's expensive. Waterfront. Yeah.
My missus and myself, we found a way to make it work. And we bonded a house. I sold 2 cars. I mean, you know how I feel about my cars.
You love your cars, I
sold a 57 Chevy Bel Air and an old 69 Camaro. And it was enough to watch it go. But it was something that I always wanted to do and wanted to do it well, you know.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of money on that gig to make it work properly. And when it launched at the highest level.
It was Gunslingers.
Bro, at 2017, I'm proud to say it was by an independent group of journalists. They rated it one of the top 10 comedy clubs in the world. Dude. Number 9 on a list of top 10.
That's a big accolade.
That's a huge accolade. I couldn't believe it, to be very honest. And we had no idea they were in the room. We didn't even know which night they were there.
Oh, that's great.
We don't know which night. But the article was launched and we were fed the information through an email somewhere, and we were blown. At first, it was like, this is a joke, right? And then as the journalists came to ask us a little more about it, we were like, this is serious as a heart attack. Yeah. And so we've had some Hollywood acts play there. We've had the likes of like the celebrity that, when you walk past the table and then you go,
hey,
hold on a second. This is Tracy Morgan.
Yeah.
How's it, my bro? Take a couple of pictures.
That's
and then
wild.
The cast of The Young and the Bold and the Beautiful was there one day because they were out shooting something in Cape Town. They came.
That's amazing.
I wasn't there the night, but I believe Denzel Washington was there one night while they were shooting there. And you hear stories like this.
That's great.
And so it was because it was the waterfront, of course. So we saw a lot of celebrity comedians come through there, tons of them.
Yeah.
And you know how it is. They go, where's the room to work? And everyone goes, the Cape Town Comedy Club.
Yeah.
And we changed the name from Yomasa to Cape Town Comedy Club very strategically, because if you go in the Google search and you got Cape Town attached to comedy, it becomes the first page.
Yes, of course.
And
also, just to make it PC and what the fuck, sometimes, and this is a thing that a lot of comedians need to get with. Yeah. We have to sometimes make a little sacrifices for the commercials. Of the business. At
the end of the day, they call it show business for a very good reason. There should be a lot of emphasis on the business part of it.
Yes, absolutely.
And every successful comedian in the world has an entrepreneurial spirit in him or her. It has to be there.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible not to be there.
Yes.
You would never make it out of the starting blocks if you couldn't be there. You know more than most.
Thank you, man. Yeah. You saw me come up. I used to come to the Cape Town Comedy Club, and I'll tell you what my big thing was. Des will tell you, I would book a week. And in the beginning, I was green, so I'd go, just give me anything. And then I would do, and then, the whiteboard, the chalkboard outside, and then, take a picture, and you're very proud that you're doing it. But I used to fund it myself, fly out of Joburg, come and do the thing, open spotting. And then as I got better, I used to try and get October, I would come down here, take leave at work, and do a week, or if I could, a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know why? Because the Cape Town Comedy Club had decision makers in there.
Yeah.
I did not care about the fee. No. I cared about the corporates I used to get out of the room. I used to come and I would make my hottest 10 minutes. Yeah. And then Oaks would go, why are you getting corporates in Cape Town? I was like, bro, I came here in October when everyone was making, what are we doing for the year-end function decisions?
So what most people don't know is that for us to keep the seats full there a lot of the time, we used to have specials with corporates where they would take tables for extended periods of the time.
Yes.
And you will very cleverly spot that there because between October and November, there were a lot of corporate decision makers in the room every given night.
Every night,
yeah.
And then sometimes, and it would just be like you get and then you hang around just in the periphery there so that they can get to you.
Exactly.
You know, a business card or a number. Yeah. That's how I used to do it.
And that's a very smart move. And that's exactly the kind of move that you need to make as a young comic. You've got to spot the gap, spot a niche for it, and then execute it.
Yes.
And fortune favors the brave in a game like this. You can't 100%. Just sit in the group there and hopefully someone will spot you, because the problem with doing ensemble gigs is when you're on the lineup with 6 or 7 other people, they just go, the colored bald guy. Then you become, you drift
100%.
into you can't be. I've got an itchy nose. I don't know what kind. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
You cut that out. I just look like a cocaine addict. Anyway, somebody's talking about me. That old wives' tales there. So there would be times of the year when things were hot at the comedy club, and around September onwards, things would just heat up all the time. There would be shitloads of corporates in the room, and what we'd highly encourage corporates to come in. We'd guest list a lot of them.
Yeah.
But they'd still eat and drink and spend a crap load of money entertaining their guests at the bar and the likes of. So we kept that kind of those pathways very open for corporate. And those were the people that supported us throughout the 10 years that we were at the waterfront. And they were instrumental in getting the comedy club to where it was.
Yeah.
Of course, the tourist was a big part of it. On any given evening, there would be about 30% of the room. 25 to 30% of the room would be from another part of the world.
Yeah.
And there's no better way than to touch base with Cape Town or South Africa by checking its comedy culture. It's
so also I always tell comics that the closest thing not the closest thing. The actual feeling of doing, because every South African comedian has you want to travel, you want to do stand-up in Europe, you want to do stand-up. We've done it. You've been privileged to do it. Yeah. You realize that the Cape Town Comedy Club was that thing. Because in every night you would get Germans, Italians, people that didn't have a clue, didn't know the references. So I would be petrified flying down here. Because I knew I wasn't just going to get South African people in a room. It would be 40%. Some of them are net a German tour group. No one is laughing. They're staring at you now.
So what happened was we developed a sense of comedy that was quite inclusive to the foreigners as well.
Yeah.
We'd keep the gags very simple sometimes and explain what we're saying.
Yeah.
And it was the only room I knew of in South Africa that was doing that kind of thing, because we were and it was all by default because of the waterfront being quite a foreign space.
Yeah.
There's certain parts of Cape Town I realized with hindsight that would never come to the Cape Town Comedy Club because it was considered a foreign space. The northern suburbs of Cape Town.
Yes.
They wouldn't come to the waterfront, bro.
It's far.
And when they did come to the waterfront, they go, man, this baie fucking lekker. And they bring friends and they bring more friends, and that's how we got them in there eventually.
Yes.
But it was about that spirit. And man, I was very proud of what happened at that comedy club as it developed. And I was horribly saddened by the Department of Arts and Culture, considering all of the accolades it had gotten and all of the development it had for young comedians and young artists. And when the shit hit the fan, everyone just went like, hey,
my friend. And I think it's important to note that it was a successful business that was knocked out by COVID, just like many.
Man, we had a waiting list at that comedy club. Yeah. If you weren't there by 7:30, the show starts at 8:30. You weren't there by 7:30. I got a list of 12 people there that will fill that spot maklik, no problem at all. And we'd phone them up and you'd get to the door and go, hey, we're a little late. Sorry, your table's gone, dude.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because we're trying to be cuck. We just need to fill the room.
Yes, because it's not this is another thing about that business and brick and mortar businesses is that you cannot risk having empty seats because the overhead is real. The overhead is very real.
So keep in mind, it was 3 businesses in one. There was the theatre part of it that had its own set of costs, comedians, technical, lights, all of the rest of it. Yeah. Then there was a bar, which has its own stock levels, its own staff and the like. Yeah. And then there was a restaurant, which also had its own kitchen staff, its waiting staff and the like. Yeah. And to make all of those logistics blend together and make it work, still pay those high rates, the high salaries and all of the rest of that, and keep all of it together and still profitable at the end of the day. That taught me some very big lessons.
Yeah.
And but what was great was that was going for 10 years.
Yes.
For 10 years. And when we closed at the end of 2019, early 2020, for all intents and purposes, there was a waiting list. We still had a waiting list.
To go in.
And then it was like, hey, listen, lockdown, you can't have an audience in. We thought we're closing down for 6 weeks and then we're coming back because I still had another 3 years left of my lease.
Oh man, that was heartbreaking for you for sure, but it was also heartbreaking. I go, somebody actually said it the other day, and I've been saying this for a couple of years now. In comedy, and there's a very comedy conversation, comedians are very competitive despite what they try and say. We all want to get ahead, and in that kerfuffle, people like to brand things like, oh, he's a gatekeeper, that one's a gatekeeper, that's why I can't get on, I'm good, that guy's not good. It's always that, because it's so difficult to look at yourself in the mirror and go, hey, you the problem. But I said it the other night, and someone else said it, and then I was like, I've been saying this too, is don't you wish the gatekeepers could come back? I wish they were back, because if you say Cape Town Comedy Club, if you say Parker's, Joe Parker, to his credit, Joe Parker wouldn't put you on. If you weren't good, you're not getting on this club floor.
Man, he taught me a lot in the process. He was a big mentor to me when I started the comedy club out. And throughout its running and existence, he was a constant source of, hey, Joe, I need a little bit of help. I'm not sure how to approach this. Because he was doing this for a long, long time before I even came along, you know.
Yeah.
So he was a huge help. And he always told me, and he went, listen, Kurt, whether you like the comic or not, or his style or her style of comedy, it's got nothing to do with it. It's about that audience.
Yep.
If you got a middle act that's putting our moves a lot of pressure on the headliner, you can't keep him a middle act for too long.
Yeah.
You got to make him a headliner. Because you're just you're gonna take the hierarchy and mess with it.
Yes.
And that's the long and short of it. So the audience will be the barometer as to where a comic was going and whether he was ready for a promotion and so on.
Yes.
Of course, everybody wanted to be promoted second gig into the run, you know.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, until you're putting pressure on the headliner, or you're on par with the headliner.
Yes. I miss just people, and I'll say this, and I hope comedians watch this. I miss just people that were honest.
Yeah.
Honest, because we can't always be honest about our own abilities. Like, it took me 2 years to get to be a paid mid spot at Joe's Club.
Yeah.
And that time I felt all kinds of way about it.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing so well out here. No. Yeah. And I remember Tony, the king, used to tell Joe, hey, he's doing well, man. When are you going to? And Joe would just go, it'll come. And when it did come, it came. And then I became a headliner and I was that guy. But we need a lot of that. Like, I'm missing that a lot. That filter.
Exactly.
Because you could headline your own gig around the corner.
So this is what's going on at the moment. There's a lot of little clans playing amongst themselves. Yeah. Then the oak that's got 10 minutes is the headliner.
Yeah.
And then listen, man, I don't want to I never want to hold people back.
It's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But also what it does is it gatekeeps in another way. It keeps other acts out.
Yeah.
Like if they don't like your style maybe,
Yeah.
right? Or you are a little too ambitious. That's also a way to edge somebody out. And it's there's always
You know the
that.
things.
Oh, of course I know the thing.
Human
things. I'll tell you what. When I was running the club, as a club owner, a headliner is a valuable commodity to me. Valuable. There's nothing more valuable to me than a headliner. They don't grow on trees. They take 20 years to develop.
Yeah.
So when I've got a headliner that's coming from overseas, or I've got a middle act that's time to become a headliner, that's a celebration, bro.
Yeah.
Because I've got someone else to headline.
Yeah.
I've got someone else I can put on the bill. Yeah. There's someone else I can sell to a corporate. There's someone else that's worthy of that space.
Yes.
So it was always a celebration. It was never, ever a trying to keep people out. It was you needed to be ready for it. Here's another thing. People want a lot of shit. And when they get it, it's like, oh, you're ready for it, bruh.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Because now you get the opportunity to do that and test your mettle, so to speak. And you die on your ass in front of all of the nice people, my bro.
Oh, my friend.
I can't have that happen because then it makes my business look cuck. It makes you look shit. So I've got to make sure that you're primed, you're ready. Yeah. We can gooi kak at you and you're going to roll with the punches.
Joe used to tell us straight, don't come try new material in my club.
No.
I want the hits reel.
Boom, yeah. And then there were other acts, for example, like a good example is KG Magadi, for example.
Brilliant comedian. So his rise
to a headliner space was very fast.
Yes.
Because he just was that guy. Skalk was there.
Too quickly.
Skalky came through our system too.
Yeah.
Through the comedy club, and before long he was.
I think because he was at university when he was doing stand up with you guys.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you couldn't keep Skalky back.
Yeah. Still can't.
No.
It's a machine.
Right from the very beginning, he was putting pressure on the headliner almost from the beginning.
Yeah.
So then this oaks can go with Skalky's go work on I. I'm like, but just look at what he's doing. Check the audience out when he's up there. I can't hold him back. There's nothing you can do. What you can do,
you're ruining the show. He's ruining the show here in the middle.
But if he's putting big cuck on the headliner, then he's ruining the show in the middle of there. Yeah. It makes the whole show look upside down. Yes. Show's got to work up to a crescendo, you know.
Yeah. Of course.
So we take him out as the middle act, and we put him on as a headliner. And it's a celebration when he does come along because, like I said, the headliners are the most valuable on the whole thing is a host and a headliner.
Yes.
And hosting and headlining is two different things completely.
I was never a host. I was never really.
There are a few people. There's a few people that can do both.
Yeah.
There's a few people that can do both. Stuart Taylor's a good host and a good headliner. Alan Committee is one of those oaks as well. Yes. John Flismus was a fantastic host and a great headliner.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy combination because the skill set's different.
Yes. Also, I found I find I can MC any event. Yeah. But a comedy gig, I'm too into telling my bits.
Yeah.
And that's selfish when you're a headliner.
Man.
You know what I mean?
What's difficult is as a MC, it's most probably the hardest job on the lineup because you're on and off and on and off and on and off. Yes. But also it's the most thankless job of the lot because you don't get the big star status You don't get the Ronaldo spot. You know, that's the headliner's job.
Yeah.
So as the host, and sometimes when the middle act is killed and it's done well, there's no reason to do any more material when you come on. You get the headliner straight on.
Yeah, the hard rule is you don't say anything after that headliner finishes.
Now, what really pissed me off back in the day was hosts that went on for 20 minutes after the headline.
That's
like,
terrible.
Bro, the job is done. Send them home.
Send them home.
In fact, we put the music on, we get a DJ on, pull the tables back. You can
tequila
dance
special.
Lekker, but tequila special. I was that 10 rand tequila. Bro, people used to write emails. Like, you know, like...
Yeah.
For doing that 10 rand tequila. I was sick for 3 days afterwards.
10 rand tequila.
And, you know, it goes great with comedy, though.
Great. But now, also, you skip over a thing. Yeah. There's something here you used to be... Your master comedy was massive at the Grahamstown Festival.
Yes.
Because I was coming up, and I remember the first year I went as a act to the Grahamstown Comedy Festival as that group, me and the Goliaths coming down there. And I would go there and look, I just want a spot. Because I wasn't good enough. I wasn't in the space long enough yet to get on.
Yes.
But it used to be packed. And then it was like, after everything closed, everyone would head down to that, your master.
It was well structured as well. Because what we did there was we made sure that we were the only show on at 11 o'clock at night. The only show. And we also only played in one venue, which was the bowling club.
Yes.
And we had it for years and years and years.
Stumpful.
Like I'm talking about, we used to shoehorn Owens in there, right?
Yeah.
It was chuck our block. And it would be a different lineup every night. It was based on the best of stand-up at the festival at any given time.
And there were Owens on there. You name them, they came through there. Rob van Vieren. Like everyone.
Martin Evans, Robbie Collins. All of these oaks that jumped on that stage at some stage. So what we did with that over there, we also had, for a couple of years, that we had a sponsored car that we had at the Cape Town Comedy Club, or your Master Comedy Club.
Yeah.
Car was branded in that.
Yeah.
And we would just take that car and park it on a different corner every day. It was a moving billboard, bro.
Yeah.
And we had posters up, of course, all over the... So for the longest time, Des and myself had set up the Arts Festival in Grahamstown as one of the highlights on the calendar for us, for the Cape Town Comedy Club, for your Master Comedy Club. And then, because we used to take down with us from Cape Town at least 3 comics and myself.
Okay.
So we'd go with a solid lineup that we'd give other oaks spots to.
Yeah.
But I had to rent a house. I had to feed the oaks. We had to,
it's expensive.
We had to house them. And it became more and more expensive every year. And there was, at some point, we couldn't afford to do it anymore and run a big solid business in Cape Town at the same time.
Yeah.
And we needed a lineup there when we were gone because the club didn't stop.
Yes.
The only time the club was closed was New Year's Day. That was it.
Really?
That was it.
Christmas.
We gooi, bruh. New Year's Eve, big party. But that club was never closed. It ran 364 days a year.
And tell me, you speak about these things. You spoke about arts and culture, and I go like, I think that this is a very sad testament to what happens to art, the arts, and then I'm going to speak about comedy at the Grahamstown Comedy Festival. I'm going to say it. Yeah. And people might be upset, but I think everyone will actually agree with me. Things have gone south, my friend.
It's one of the reasons we didn't go back after a while because Goberka or
Goberka is PE.
Makanda, old Grahamstown. Grahamstown started to have some serious infrastructure problems.
Yeah.
Like water infrastructure. We would rent a house for way too much money and not be able to have a shower.
Yeah.
And then it started, and then every year it would go up 15-20%. And by the time you got to year number 5, now you're paying double what you used to pay, and it was 20 grand then. So you go, bruh, it becomes the goalposts change every year, and it becomes further and further and less probable or likely for you to do it. And you can ask Des this. We hung in there for as long as we could.
Yeah.
And even here's the weirdest thing, You said it yourself. The shows were sold out.
Yes.
So we had a full room every night. We were selling out every room, and we still couldn't afford to stay.
Now, you see, this is something that I want to take this opportunity and say to the festival and the people at Powers That Be, listen to that story. Here's a successful show that can't afford to be in town. We love Grahamstown. We love Makanda. We had great times. I go there on my own now. Outside of festival, I find that it's better for me to book the theater and do the show because my audience will come and and it's fantastic. But to go to the festival, you struggle for accommodation. It's awkward. And now it's not like the festival used to be when I was a kid. You go there and it's packed.
Yeah.
It's not, there isn't a lot of people walking around taking chances on shows.
No.
And that's all got to do with the economics of the country.
Of course. Also, economically, the country's gotten into a space where things are very challenging. And it's great that you when you have your audience, and some of us have had the pleasure of working through spaces to build up an audience over years.
Yeah.
The problem sometimes comes in is when you've got an ensemble cast, for example, they know they like stand-up, but they just, when the bond is not paid and the school fees aren't paid, where is comedy going to fit in? Unless you really know and trust this one comic that you dig and you want to watch his show or her show.
It becomes, I'm picking, like you're going to the festival and I'm picking 2 shows.
And that's it. Where you used to see 10 before.
Yes.
So financially, I think it has, entertainment is still considered very much a luxury commodity, and as it should.
Yeah.
And in a place like, let's say, Europe or Australia or the States, where the average person has a bit of disposable income and you're able to cover the bases.
Yeah.
They're gonna make it through. The artists are gonna make it through. Also, there are all kinds of infrastructure in place for artists and funding for artists from government and the likes of. Theoretically, we've got that. Theoretically.
Yeah.
But practically on the ground, there's very little to no support.
No, I've not listened. Both of us can testify to this.
Yeah.
When COVID came, we were on our own. In fact, we were helping each other out, giving each other phone calls, going, "Hey, luister, can ons die ding doen en daai ding doen," because we were on our own. I don't know a comedian. I think I know one comedian that can say that they got like 20 grand in COVID. I got nothing.
I know of 2 comics that got it, and that's only because they knew how the infrastructure works on the inside.
Yeah.
I know of 2 comics that got some kind of TERS payout.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a princely sum at all. It was the 20 grand, that kind of 20 grand type of thing.
100%.
And that 15 grand gets you through, and living frugally, that gets you through the month, pal.
Yeah.
And there were all kinds of, and so I went from running a business with 36 staff and a very comprehensive and thick schedule of trying to get through shit and very, very busy, to twiddling my thumbs at home for 6 weeks trying to figure out what to do next. It was
36 staff members with 36 kids and families that were fed, with another, every week there was about 4 people on the lineup times what? But there was another maybe 20 comics coming through that were feeding families.
So I went from also what a lot of people don't understand is I sacrificed a big part of my career to start the comedy club and to operate it and to run it and curate it.
Yeah.
And there's a piece of me today that regrets it a little bit, because I could have done so much more for my own brand.
Yes.
And I just stuck to that. And
tour the country, go overseas.
I've made friends, comics all over the world that have invited me over and over and over again. And I mean, now I'm able to take on that kind of thing, and I've got some plans of traveling a lot more. But for that 10 years to 15 years.
You're a business owner.
For 15 years, I was a business owner. I put myself up on stage so I could get the stage time,
Yeah.
But I didn't do any of the one-man stuff that I was quite popular for at the time.
Yes,
I didn't do any of the touring stuff anymore because I couldn't. I needed to focus on the business.
Yeah.
I couldn't do a lot of those things. And I must be honest, I was so excited about starting this comedy club and training up all the young cats and getting this business going.
Yeah.
And that I completely forgot to actually take care of myself.
Oh.
And when it all collapsed, I found that no one actually remembered what I did. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing,
I don't know that's true though. I mean,
it felt like it.
Yeah,
it felt like I didn't look after myself well enough.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear where you're coming from with that. Like, I think it's like, because entertainment is such a fickle thing. It's like you're popular today. If I don't bring out a one-man show for 2 years, it's over. I'm starting from the bottom,
my bro,
plugging at it, and there's another kid that's hot.
There's always movement. So I don't think I'll ever stop doing stand-up.
Yeah.
I'll be do stand-up for the rest of my life. I just love the process of it. I love the not knowing where it's going to land type of thing. As to whether I'll be a popular act forever, I don't think so. I think there will be a certain veteran kind of space for me.
Yeah.
I also have other interests that I don't want to only invest in stand-up. What Kurt loves cars. It's
yes, we're talking about that now. so yeah, I mean, I 100% get what you're saying. The comedy club was just a great thing, and I got a lot of I love performing there.
Cheers,
I remember the lip.
That means a lot. That means a lot to me.
People used to say, "Hey, Jason Goliath called me before I was going on stage." He goes, "Get onto the lip."
Yeah.
He was like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
There's the stage and there was a little lip in front.
Yeah.
If you didn't get onto that lip, you weren't in their face enough.
Now, that lip was designed to do just that. Bro.
Yes.
Now, what's beautiful about that club is that it was designed by a stand-up for stand-ups,
Yeah.
not by someone else.
Yeah.
I took so much time to get that stage right. Now,
Only comedy club I've ever been in with a follow spot.
my bra.
We never had follow spot. You go to the Comedy Cellar in New York, doesn't have a bra follow spot.
No. We had a full-time follow spot. Do you know how much money and time and energy I spent on getting that sound just right, bro?
Because that's a cavernous space.
My bro, we had a sound system in there that it was... You couldn't hear a word.
Yeah.
And eventually we got in an Italian speaker system that we tested just about everything. And then there was a system called FPT that came in there, and it was like you could whisper on the microphone and they could hear you at the bar.
Oh, that's correct.
It's called a line array, like a long throw speaker.
Oh, yes.
A very special set of speakers. They were kak expensive, but it was the kind of asset we wanted to purchase so that it would we could pay it off over a period of time.
Yeah.
But it had the best sound, in my opinion, any stand-up club in the world at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was fantastic.
So now, beyond the comedy, people don't know this about you. Now, I've learned this with chummies, but Kurt has got a thing about like old things.
Yeah,
it's not just the cars.
No.
You love the cars, we'll get to the cars, but you look for old Ray-Bans that are ceramic. And I've been trying to get him to just start a channel on finding things. Because you go to second-hand stores.
All the time. Bro, it's my thing. I'm on eBay every day. I must probably check my eBay account and my Etsy account before I check my emails in the morning.
Is it?
I'm bidding on stuff. I'm checking on stuff. There's small things that most people will never know, like Ray-Ban, for example. Ray-Bans was probably one of the best quality consumable goods we've ever had in the history of consumable goods. But in the late 90s, early 2000s, Bausch & Lomb, the company that owned the brand, sold it to Luxottica. Those are the guys that own all the other big brands.
Yes.
But they never sold the technology. They only sold the shape, the name. So pre-2000, Bausch & Lomb Ray-Bans are of a much, much higher quality.
Ceramic, right?
Well, not ceramic only, as there's certain models that were. There were also some models that were hand-ground glass. Mm-hmm. Whereas the modern stuff a lot of it is plastic, you know.
Yeah, it's an old.
But if you hold the two next to each other, you can actually see the difference. But if you don't have the one to compare to, and also the Bausch & Lomb stuff had etching in the right places, and the lenses that had a B and L etched on each edge, and the stamp underneath that said Ray-Ban New York USA.
Yeah.
And they were all handmade back then. There's a whole story that comes with Bausch & Lomb still make lenses, like they make contact lenses and that kind of thing. They've been a lens company since the turn of the century, from the turn of the 20th century. So they were the guys who literally made the bombing scopes for the B-52 bombers.
Yeah.
And then because of the glare up there, they went, listen, man, the pilots tuned Bausch & Lomb, can't you make us a pair of sunglasses that could help us get the glare off? Yeah. And that's where the aviator sunglasses came from, bro.
Now what makes it's you've always been into these things? Because it's not just the sunglasses. It's also, you once told me you pulled out a pair of sneakers and you went, this model is this.
So I'm into the aesthetics of something. Like sneakers is a big thing for me. Shoes and sneakers, particularly sneakers. Small things like Nike's history, for example. Just like Adidas history. You know, Puma and Adidas is the same. They
family members.
Two brothers. Yeah.
Yes.
They had a bit of a fallout. The one went one way, the other one kept Adidas. The other one started Puma.
Yeah.
Nike was started as the Oak was making sneaker soles from his wife's waffle iron in the kitchen, my bro. He was selling it out of the boot of his car.
Yes, yes.
And then he went to Japan and got Onitsuka Tiger to buy into his sales system in the States.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we all know what Nike is today.
Yeah. Where did the love for that come from? Like looking for detail and...
it started off with Doc Martens when I was a lightie. And what you wanted was a pair of Doc Martens that said made in England at the bottom.
Okay.
Because the ones later on, they were made in Vietnam and Pakistan. And they were just never the same quality. They looked the same, but they were made of a slightly less quality material, and they wouldn't put together as well.
Yeah.
They still make, today, they make Doc Marten made in England. They are about 10 times more than the commercial stuff. Yeah.
Now that, like, I don't, that's a part of your personality that people, I don't think knows.
Most people never. I think every man needs a couple of basics in their wardrobe. Right? Like a Harrington jacket. You know what a Harrington jacket is?
No, tell me.
It's like we used to call it a London fog back in the day. A London fog jacket. James Bond wears one.
Yes.
It's just a famous jacket. You have to have a good Harrington jacket. You need a good black or blue suit, a very well tailored suit. You need, like, shoes maketh a man, bruh.
Yes.
A good pair of shoes, there's just no second best. A good watch.
100%. A good
right
watch.
up there.
I know you're a big watch guy.
I'm a big watch guy. I've got a couple of watches, and
it's not necessarily, Kurt doesn't necessarily it's not necessarily going to pay high prices for stuff.
Not necessarily.
It's sometimes just digging for things that people don't understand the value of.
So I like 70s divers watches.
Yes.
Because they were big, chunky, and they
Seikos.
We call it, Seiko had a watch called a Pogue. Today they were 30, 40 grand.
Yes.
But when I was growing up, you could buy them for relatively cheap. I had a Pogue very early on. Small things, you need a good leather jacket. You need a good cut pair of jeans, bro.
Yes.
You can't do without that,
Yeah.
And you don't have to blow the piggy bank. You just really need to understand a good structure.
Yeah.
I think you need a couple of basics in your wardrobe. If you've got 5 good quality things in your wardrobe, you can rock it every day, bro.
Yeah. But I think people can see that, and I think it'll make a lot of sense because you've got a very particular way you dress. Even when you're casual, I see you with those particular set of Nikes all the time. Like there's a very particular look to you, like aesthetic that you put.
Man, it's got to, as far as I'm concerned, it's got to be comfortable, it's got to be simple, and it's got to have good... It's got to be striking in a certain way. Also, what I do like is I don't like very big branded things.
Yeah.
I don't like big signs over the front that says diesel, hypothetically. It must be a very small, subtle signs.
Yeah.
It must be a well-cut T-shirt. It must be... And when you tick all of those boxes, there's certain brands that I prefer, of course, and there are others that I would stay far away from. And it's not because they're horrible brands. It's just because they represent something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like... There's nothing wrong. I mean, I've got lots of friends that will actually cuck me out for saying this. But I will never drive an M3 BMW. Never.
Why is that?
Because there's a certain kind of that digs that kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with the car. The engineering's fantastic and all of that. It's fun to drive and all of that.
Yeah.
But there's a certain kind of oak that's associated with that kind of thing,
Yeah.
Also, when it comes to cars, I'm very specific about what I drive, what I mean? So for me, like an old 50 Chevy is... An old 50s Cadillac, that's where I would love to drive every day.
Yeah.
The problem is that I can't afford to drive one every day because the petrol will bankrupt me.
I can imagine.
I've got an old 57 Chevy Ballet. To put petrol, to fill that tank is 2,200 rand, bro.
How long does it last you?
Now, you put it this way, you don't get kilometers to the liter. You get meters to the liter. It's like a 6 liter.
Oh man!
So that's like driving 5 I-10s at the same time.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
So my dad once said that. I'm pretty sure I drove past Kurt Schoonraad years ago. I'm pretty sure he was in the bonnet of a car. Then I never thought of it again. And then years went by, and then I met you, became friends with you. Then I realized that must have been you.
That was
because in the bonnet of a car, it's an old car, they break down.
My bro. So you must check how I build my cars. You can ask my mates now. So I've got default systems in my car. So where there's a fuel system, there's 2 fuel systems.
Is it? You
With
add
toggle
on.
switches. So if the one breaks down, I'm like, click. I don't want to get stuck with the old car, bro. That
Yeah.
you know, I've got a couple of phobias now. There's 2 things you will never see me do. You'll never see me in public with a plastic bag. Never.
Why?
It's a fear of mine, bro. When I was growing up, right?
Yeah.
It was my school bag, my tog bag, my mom's bag. I put my lunch in it. I
Yeah.
had to go to school with a ShopRite Checkers bag.
I see.
And I hated every minute of it. I hated a ShopRite Checkers bag. Not just a ShopRite Checkers bag. It's just
Any
a
plastic bag.
Any plastic bag. I don't care if it's got a W
Yeah.
chappy on it. I
Yeah.
don't want it. It's plastic
Yeah.
bag. Or you will never see me walking down the road with a can, going to put petrol in a can and bringing it back to a car. No, sir, I'll call an Uber for that guy.
It's that thing
It
that
is a
you-
fear of mine. I used to take a drive with my uncle, one of my mom's brothers. He used to run out of petrol 3 times a day. And we would go everywhere with this little kanachi and going. I was like, when I'm older one day, when I'm a big boy, I do not run out of petrol. My car goes on to like half. I can fall apart.
top up.
Top up.
Tell me, you from Mitchell's Plain.
Yes, sir.
That's where you started in life. How does the love for cars come?
Well, I'm 3rd generation car guy. So my grandfather was a mechanic. And when I was growing up, he was always there working on cars. My dad kind of clicked in there. It's my mom's father.
Yeah.
And then my dad clicked in there. And I was the guy trapping the pedal there for the brakes when they were bleeding the brakes. I had this big old white steering wheel. My grandfather worked on all his old cars. And somehow the smell of an old car and the look of an old car, that it just stuck.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Associated with a happy time.
Happy times, nostalgia.
Yeah.
Also, you know, the 50s in America was in America just finished, they just got out of that Second World War thing.
Yeah.
And they were obsessed with space travel.
Yeah.
So all of those 50s cars had rockets and big chrome and
big
wings
and-
out
yeah.
back and afterburners that looked like rockets. So they were obsessed with it. And that kind of design and styling kind of stuck with me. And that's something that I've always loved immensely.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So that's where the car thing come from. But so you start your life, you from Mitchell's Plain.
Yeah.
How do you get from there to comedy?
Well, I started my life in Warm Estate, strangely enough.
Okay.
I was born in District 6.
Oh, okay.
So I had family that was living in Warm Estate, which is just above District 6.
Yes.
So District 6 was gone already. I was at a school called Zonnebloem.
Yeah.
Right at the base of District 6, kind of in between District 6 and Warm Estate. And when I finished finished primary school, I went to, actually I didn't finish primary school. I went to primary school. The later part of my primary school career was my parents moved to Mitchell's Plain.
Mm-mm.
And I inevitably moved with them, of course.
Of course.
I was still at Zonnebloem for a year or two, or while my parents were already living in Mitchell's Plain. And eventually it was just a lot more practical to go to school there. And then I went to school in Mitchell's Plain, school called Duneside Primary, which is down the road from me. And then Rocklands High. Rocklands High was a very progressive school at the time. It was very kind of academically accoladed school.
Yeah.
It did very well, but we were cuck at sports. I remember we were like the H section or something. And then I went to school. I had great teachers there. And when I finished school, I started a t-shirt business. I was never going to be employed. I was just cuck at that. My biggest problem is trying to look busy when I'm not. You know what I mean? I hated that. So I started a t-shirt business in my mom's garage, and that's like we printed t-shirts like it was going out of fashion. I can't actually tell you what happened there, but let's just say I almost got arrested for that because we were, what's the word? Copyright infringement.
Vir die goed dat jy op die t-shirt gesit het. Ja.
And eventually they had closed me down, and then I started to work for a freighting company.
Okay.
And within a year or two, I had started my own freighting company because I was like, hold on a minute, I must know how to do this. I don't have to work for this, bruh.
Yeah.
I can do this on my own. And I specialized in documents only. And I started a small business like that. And then I used to do stand-up at night because I didn't need to be at the office so early anymore. And I had my own clients.
So how did the stand-up thing start? Did you just always want to try it?
There was an ad, there was a community newspaper in Mitchell's Plain called The Plainsman. It's still there.
Yeah, I know The Plainsman.
So The Plainsman. So The Plainsman had an ad in their classified section out back. Go, do you think you're funny? Go and try out at the Smirnoff Comedy Festival.
Yeah, which was the big
There was a
festival.
big thing.
Yeah.
It was the biggest thing. Right?
Yeah.
I go and try out the Smirnoff Comedy Festival, New Faces section, my bro.
Hier gaat tot.
You got to. So, but also I was like, nah, I'm not going to try it. And my girlfriend at the time went, but you're funny, oh, why don't you go try? So I went, I'll show you I won't get in. So I want to go try it. Voila, my brother, I get in.
Hey.
And you know who was with me there?
Ooh.
I'll never forget this, bro. We were both trying out on the same day. It was a long queue of oaks outside. Now, literally, what seemed like hundreds, I'm sure there was like 50 oaks, but it seemed like 400, right? And Eddie Kazar and Sam Hendrickse were the judges.
Oh, wow.
They were the creators.
What year is this?
99.
Jeez, I was in standard 9.
It's that 1999,
Yeah.
right? So, and then there was an oak that came on just before me, and he tripped on the step on the way in.
Yeah.
And everybody tried to help him, but it was part of his act.
Yeah.
His name was Alan Committee.
Wow. So all on the same day.
All on the same day.
And he was he was a teacher actually.
He was
Alan
a teacher at the
yes.
time. Yeah. I mean, I was just trying to prove my girlfriend wrong.
Freight company,
The freight
t-shirts,
cramp.
je gaat ons.
Listen, I wasn't shooting the lights out. I wasn't making a big bucks at all, but I was making a living from doing a business that I started on my own. I was loving that.
Yeah.
And it also got me all kinds of independence, so I could buy my own car and get around and do what I wanted to do. But it also afforded me the opportunity to work at night and not kill myself to try and get to work at 6:30 in the morning.
Yes.
I only saw my clients from 8, 9 o'clock onwards.
Yeah.
So I could do the stand-up at night. Because while I was on stage there at the Smirnoff Comedy Festival, so I got on the lineup and it was a 3-week run.
Yes.
And I think it was week number 3.
Yeah.
There was an English couple that came to me after the show and said, "Oh, no, we got a thing running at the Armchair. Here's our card. This was Sam Pearson and Mark Sampson. Come and play." And we've got a guy called Mark Lottering there and Stuart Taylor and all of these guys. Come and play. And then I went there and I met all of them. Riyadh was there that night. Snoddy was there. Mark was there.
Yeah.
And I was the guy that joined the last. So I was the new guy.
Okay.
And that when one thing led to another, Stuart and myself moved into a house like a year later.
Yes.
Because we just couldn't keep going in between Mitchell's Plain and Grassy Park all the time.
Yes.
We thought we could rent a place down the road. We found it was relatively cheap at the time.
Yeah.
We moved in together there and in a good Christian way, of course.
Of course.
We both had girlfriends at the time. Of course, I mean, he's married to his girlfriend right now. Now, Liska. I've been with Catering for 25 years now, give and take a bit.
Oh, so you guys have been together.
We've been together for ages, bro. I met Catering at the Armchair for crying out loud.
Oh, wow. Now you have a lighty.
Now we've got a
Very, and
15-year-old.
almost an adult.
Yeah, and the oak is... but you know, it's amazing how much time has passed. This all feels like it happened last week.
Yeah. Time is a way of doing that.
It has a way of doing it. And also, there was never cuck moments. It was always fantastic times with great people. Then I got to meet Joe at the Armchair. And then Joe said, "Come and play down in Joburg." And then remember, at this time, there was only 10 comics in the whole country.
Yeah.
It was Martin Jonas, Magic Man, myself, Kagiso, Mark, and there was a couple of David Cow.
Yes.
There was a couple of other oaks.
Yeah.
But
All of those oaks shot the lights out.
Exactly. There was 10 of us. We were doing corporates en masse, my bro.
Ah.
Before long, I was in Joburg doing corporates, bro.
Yes.
And then, I mean, listen, you get them to laugh. They don't care what you're doing.
Yes.
And Billy Prince was there as well at the same
Brilliant.
time. Brilliant.
I never met it. Tragically passed away in a car crash, but
we were all playing in
he
Joburg
used to do
that
voices.
night,
That was
he was just a legend.
it's different.
Tola van der Merwe also passed away in that time.
Ah, yeah. I remember that.
Also, quite tragically, there was so much. There was what was the guy called? There was a Durban comic also passed away in a car accident.
Yeah.
Also, just after the Smirnoff Festival.
And so the Smirnoff was your kickoff. Then you start running through the stuff, and then you just go from strength to strength.
Festival to festival, you know.
And when does the going nowhere slowly start?
Well, I was still doing the comedy circuit at the time, and then a guy called David Moore approached me when he was also into old cars.
Yeah.
And that's how we met. We met around old cars. And he went, listen, man, I'm doing a pilot for the show called Going Nowhere Slowly.
Yeah.
With an English comic, which was Mark Sampson, who initially booked me.
Yeah.
And there was another Australian comic called Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie was the guy that directed my first one-man show. The three of us did the pilot of
Going Nowhere Slowly.
We shot it in Hermanus. In the old red car.
In the old red
In the
car.
old red car. And then it sat on a shelf for about 2.5 years. Nobody wanted it.
So you guys shot that on your own steam?
We shot it on our
Shot the
steam.
pilot,
Yeah.
tried to sell it,
Yeah.
didn't work.
Didn't work. And then it just sat on a shelf somewhere. And at that stage, I was hosting the stand-up show.
Yes. Which was also on
It's
SABC.
SABC3.
But that means you're famous because at that time you're famous.
That time I was.
Because how many
yeah.
people, how many
Yeah.
channels are there at that time?
And also there was
Mnet
only
maybe.
one. There was only one stand-up show, and it was season 2. I got to host it because I was an act on season 1.
Yeah.
And then I just got along with everybody, the producers, quite well. And they asked me, would you consider hosting the next season? I'm like, where do I sign, bro?
Of course.
So I was hosting that like 2 years later,
Yeah.
2.5 years later, when David Moore called me up and said, bro, they just commissioned the show. When can you leave? I'm like, but I still got another 2 episodes to shoot. So when is your last episode? Next Thursday. Okay. We're leaving Friday morning. Friday morning, Dave Levinson,
Yes.
and myself and a guy called Anton Visser. The 3 of us were heading out in an old red car somewhere. We didn't know where we were going to.
I forgot Dave was in there.
Dave was in there.
And so for you, like perception is such a weird thing because that was in the 2000s.
Yes, early 2000.
In my
2004, 2005, yeah.
In my head, that was in primary school for me, but it couldn't have been because I was in varsity already.
Exactly.
And that show was such an interesting show because I still love watching it, right?
Bro, that show was, if I dare I say, because I was involved in it, a little biased, but it was, remember, this was 3 comedians talking cuck while we were driving. This
Yeah.
was pre-Top Gear.
That was way pre-top.
It was way pre-Top Gear. So we were doing a format that we stumbled on
Yeah.
without a script that we didn't know was going to become super famous in the future.
It's like cultish, like it's like not cultish, but like it's part of the like
The tapestry of
yes,
how this whole thing developed.
100%. And then how did the show? Because then you stopped doing it, and then Stuart started doing it.
Well, we swapped
Yeah.
plenty because you couldn't be on the road all of the time.
Yeah.
That wasn't paying well enough.
Yeah.
And you couldn't, we used to leave for 6 weeks at a time and come back for a week.
Sure.
And
It's
then 2
intense,
weeks.
eh? Was it fun to do though?
It was fun to do. It was fun to do. There were times when Stuart and myself were together on the show. Then there were times when he was on alone, and then there were times I was on alone. And we alternated between Stu and myself and 1 or 2 other guys. And then there were guests that were constantly coming. Ian Roberts came in. And,
Yes.
Michelle Boertes at one stage has also joined us.
And she became a regular.
She became a regular, and she passed away not too long ago. The lady from, let me get her name right. Weakest Link.
Yes.
Passed away a couple of years ago as well.
yes.
She was a regular on the show as well. And then there was Vivian Vermaak,
Yeah.
blonde girl. She was also in and out with us all the time. So the cast had changed over the years, but there was always a fantastic synergy amongst the
And great stories were being told, man.
Well, what we were doing was we were traveling, and just the whole theory of it was get out of your dialing code.
Yeah.
And we just met the most eccentric people we could find, interviewed them, chatted to them, had a party. It was just fantastic.
I love the way that show was made.
It
It
was-
felt like, it was chomis
It was.
and it wasn't scripted.
Man, it was never scripted. That was the beautiful part about the show. So what they did was they got comedians on the show. And then there would be a guy like Anton Visser who was very au fait with the local history of a certain city, for example. And his job was to give
The facts.
the facts.
Yeah.
Dave and myself were the idiots in the background trying to figure out how all of this was working,
Yeah.
And I was very inexperienced at the time. I mean, they done shit with me, bro. They put me in a cage with a lion, and then they made me jump off a perfectly good bridge, and then they put me... it was just
Awkward positions.
awkward. They put
And
me on
you're
a horse,
young.
my bro. They put me on my horse. I'll never forget it. I swore. There was one long peep for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I just fluked all the way through. Then, because I've never ridden a horse, my only experience with a horse is, that's collecting like scrap metal outside. That's my experience with a horse. Then we went in the bar on the horse.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget till Dave Levinson clapped his pup on the top of the door. And clank. As we went in the bar. That was in Maclear in the Eastern Cape.
Yes.
And then we went all the way to Malawi, bro. And then Zimbabwe, and then just about every nook.
You
and
went
cranny
everywhere,
and
and there's episodes that stick in my head, but one of us is like where the car breaks down in Cape Town and you decide to just go down Loop Street.
take a
And then
walk.
go to Joburg's and
Man, Mozambique was also great because,
Yeah.
then we had the car confiscated from us because we didn't have the papers because, we used to drive around with the papers of the car in South Africa. And then they were trying to get the bribe and the Oaks were keeping the camera rolling, so we caught all of that on camera. Anyway,
Wow, what a
so
thing.
it was an honor to be involved in that show. I
Yeah.
made some fantastic friends that are still friends today.
Yes.
And that show was a groundbreaking show. People
Yeah.
still come up to me and go, "Wow, what a show!" That
Yeah. I mean, they played it on SABC Encore and I watched it again.
Yeah, man, it's still playing right now. And, of course, Cloudy sold all of that off to DSTV.
So
It-
you keep,
it's still- it's
and
still
this
on
is
loop,
another
bro.
thing about, I always tell people, like, everyone, like, the public always goes like, "Oh, but where's your royalties? I'm sure you're still making..."
Nah, bro.
So South Africa, you don't get royalties.
Well, you know what? There's a whole lot of discussion around what should happen over there. Because my image and my
likeness.
IP and my likeness is still being used today.
Yeah.
And
You don't
that's
see a
not
blue
cool.
cent for it,
That's
yeah.
that's not right.
It's not right. It's not fair.
No, it's not fair.
That's what I always go, like, I see, like, so many of our artists who have done amazing work are dying broke. And it's a tragic story.
Charlene Surti, for example,
Yeah.
Richard was a good friend,
Yeah.
And towards the last 10 years of her life, I mean, I grew up admiring her work and all of the rest of that. And I only got to know her in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And I mean, her performances and her characters that she had played was
Amazing.
iconic. And a lot of people made a lot of money from her, bro.
Of course, yeah.
And she died in poverty, my bro.
And she said it. Before she left, she said, "I'm broke."
She was, and that shouldn't happen, but it's
Should
still
not have
going on, bro. It's still going on. I mean, just recently, I don't know, Keenan
Keenan
Harrison.
Oh, no.
So Keenan Harrison.
Keenan.
So Keenan Harrison is a South African actor, good mate of mine.
Okay.
And Keenan Harrison was in. He starred in a movie called The Heart Is a Muscle.
Yeah.
In fact, he just got back from the Berlin Film Festival yesterday.
Yes.
So he was invited to the festival. The movie was accepted. They got huge accolades for it. Blown out of the water, my brother.
Yeah.
The movie did very, very well.
Yes. Yeah.
And we raised money for him so he could go, bro. The Department of Arts and Culture was nowhere to be seen. The producers of the show was nowhere to be seen. Of the movie, there was nowhere to be seen. But here's the thing: is the DTI's got they've got their staff there. The whole staff's there. Kitted.
Probably flew business.
Business class doing all the big Instagram shots on the beach, my bro, the yellows about. But it's like having the Olympic coaches all there. But the athletes are at home, they can't get a flight over.
That also happens. That
So
also
now
sometimes
it
happens.
does beg a couple of questions, What are we doing?
What are we doing?
It's a bunch of people that are in a position, and I'm not naming any names, but in a position where they've got a mandate to see to an art form and to see to artists to make sure that they are being treated fairly. But they're not doing that at all.
They're not doing it. So when do you go? Because you guys were from that generation where you're on TV today, tomorrow you can't walk through the mall. Yeah. When do you realize, hey man, I need to let go of this freighting business. I'm a comedian now. I'm famous.
Well, what happened was I've already stopped that business when I started doing stand-up. I started to become a professional stand-up. I was earning more money in stand-up than I was doing with my business.
Yeah.
So the business just started to get in the way.
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, okay, let's go pro. Because there's only 10 of us. There's a lot of room to work here. And I can see a future in it. So I went pro, and I haven't regretted it at all, because I've made a pretty decent living for myself over that period. And then Going Nowhere slowly came along. And then season 1, nothing happened really. Season 1 was there, and we did stuff, and was like, and then something happened from one day to another. I went to the shop, and then I was taking pictures with fans of Going Nowhere slowly.
Yeah.
Season 2, we couldn't drive into a town with that old red car. They knew exactly what was happening.
Wow.
We had to literally send the Oaks in to shoot the stories first and then bring the car in later. Because as soon as the audience saw the car, they were like, hey, this Going Nowhere Slowly guys are here.
Yeah.
And of course, the music was a big part of this
Yes.
Going Nowhere Slowly thing.
That
And,
tune.
that tune is still...
Yeah.
Here's the weirdest thing. So my new page, Kurt Loves Cars,
Yeah.
the theme song of it was written by the same guy who wrote Going Nowhere Slowly's theme.
Really?
Yeah, bro.
That's such a nice thing.
Bro, I'm hoping to use a lot of what I've learned on Going Nowhere Slowly, like the South African music and the likes,
Yes.
to do my show.
Yes. Listen, we've been alluding to this thing.
Yeah.
So you've been working on a very slick little thing, Kurt Loves Cars.
Yeah.
Where you go to car shows, you go and look at cars, and
review
you chat
cars.
and you review it. And where's that sitting right now?
Man, it's sitting in a space where we've done quite a bit of work on it. It needs a sponsor though. It needs somebody that can see the vision to it. And what's great about it is that it's a pretty high level standard economic measurement product.
Yeah.
And it works well in that particular space. And it's not alcohol and it's not booze. It's not.
Yeah.
It's nice family, straight
It's
down the
family
line
content,
family lifestyle type of content. And I think there's a sponsor out there that could use a nice
absolutely.
way into a particular market. And there's lots of products on the market, from tracker to insurance companies to petroleum companies. They all have specific buy-ins into the automotive industry, and that would be a fantastic match for them.
Yeah.
Because you know as well as I do, it's very expensive to shoot.
Yeah.
On average, it costs. It costs about $100,000 to shoot the episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if especially the way you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because now it's a crew that has to travel to a place.
Yeah.
And then to do this is expensive.
Yeah.
But at least I keep it in one place. Yeah. Imagine moving people around, then it becomes food,
accommodation,
and catering,
food,
and sit,
cars, and petrol, and butter.
And not to mention all the admin that goes around, like making sure that the people that you're going to go and see are expecting you, and you can talk, and you can maybe drive the cars, and
So all of that is true. Thus far, I've shot about 4 episodes between my missus and myself on our own, on the YouTube space.
And also, just to add, your wife is a professional producer of...
My missus is a producer of reality TV.
Yeah.
So she's
It's a very high standard. It's not like... Isn't Kurt running out there with 2 hours and a camera.
No,
you know what I mean?
Now, Catering is a thoroughbred pro, and she's very, very good at what she does. She's done everything from The Amazing Race to Britain's Next Top Model and all of those kind of franchises. So she's got a very long history of producing reality TV. Yeah. And it's that kind of expertise that we brought into she's brought into Kurt Loves Cars. And between the two of us, we funded and shot 4 episodes. We've also done a crap load of stuff on Instagram, for example. But so that's my new baby. That's where I'm spending a lot of my time, other than the stand-up. Yeah. Of course, I've got a show coming out, a new show called A Funny Side Up. I'm very excited about that.
I love that you have a name.
Cheers.
You know, I get so excited when a name comes out, because the name sort of, it's tough to put the name on it.
Well, the name always comes last, but you know, when you've got to put the press out and you've got to book the theater and it's got to have a blurb and it's you have to put the name.
I call my wife, is this going to work? Do you think it's going to work? Yeah.
Funny Side Up is such a liquor name. Dave Levinson helped with that, actually. He came up with the name. And he's directing it, I mentioned earlier on. And I'm just excited to get onto stage again with new stuff, completely new stuff. Yeah. And you know, it's kind of daunting on one level and it's exciting on another, because I don't know where it's going to land. I just know that the material I'm working with, it feels funny.
Yes.
But
and that's where it starts. Does it feel funny to you? Yeah. And tell me now, like... have you got dates yet, or you?
Yes, I'm from the 12th of May to, I think it's the 19th of May.
Got dates on?
We start putting it out in the next week or so.
Oh, fantastic.
We just, at ease with the theatres, you're signing contracts and making sure that everything's in place. But between the 12th and the 19th is when I will. There's about 7 shows. We'll do a little matinee as well.
Is it? Do you know where the first one's going to be?
Where?
Do you know where the first one's going to be? You're starting in Cape Town?
No. The first one is at the Baxter, and then I've got other venues booked for the same show. And then what's cool is that I've got some really good German friends, comedians over there, and the one Oak, because of our club over here, he started a club over there.
Yes.
So he's called Michael Mittermeier, and his club is called Lucky Shot Comedy Club.
Yes.
Lucky
Michael
Punch.
Mittermeier is a very big name element. Yeah,
exactly. So he's invited me to come out and play at his place, Lucky Punch Comedy Club in Munich.
You going?
Of course. Yeah.
But also, didn't your kid recently, if you don't want to talk about this, fine, didn't your kid recently go and race? Because your kid's really good at mountain biking.
He is really good at downhill mountain biking. He was in Mousine. It's like a French Alps little town. And it's where the world champs are held.
Okay. But your schoonmens is in Germany, so it's going to be
Yes,
lekker.
my schoonmens is in Germany. My heavy, not my heavy. Catherine's an only child, so there's no heavy. But her parents are in Heidelberg, which is like Stellenbosch, this little university town.
Okay.
And so I'm very lucky. I've got lots of good friends there, because her friends kind of became my friends over 25 years. So
of course.
I've got a lot of
married,
really good
vibes.
I've got lots of really good friends in Germany, and that means there's space there,
Another interesting story that people may not know, and for those of you that are in Perth, tell them the story about the Perth Comedy Lounge. That's also your bra.
That's right.
That also comes from him coming here.
Well, we met a guy, strange enough, a guy called Paddy. Paddy Goddard is a Englishman that lives in Perth now, and he went, listen, man, when you want to do a South African thing here in Perth, and that was about 10 years ago, and he's got a mate called Johnny, and Johnny was running a comedy night there. Yeah. When we got there, and he had come at some stage, he'd come visit the comedy club, and he saw what we were doing, and he was like, "I mean, listen, I'd like to do the same thing in Perth."
Yeah.
And he started it, and it's going very well. It still is.
I've played there.
Oh, fantastic!
It's a great club.
I haven't played there.
You must go, my bro. It's a great club. It's like just on the high street. It's great.
Yeah. He's invited me a couple of times. I've never got around to do it again.
Because you main dang. So now listen, you know what? I will say this. I'm very excited to hear you coming back with a one-man show. I absolutely love your stuff.
Thanks.
I love you. No, and I don't just say this. It comes from from before I was a stand-up. I've always loved your stuff. My dad didn't know you because when I did Mitchell's Plain, I thought, wouldn't it be cool to surprise these people with like a guest act from Mitchell's Plain, and who better, right? And you came and
thanks for the invitation.
And you just popped in. And I remember the response to that. That audience went nuts. And I remember my dad being so excited about it. And I always those moments where you go like, he didn't know it was such a great experience. And then he said to me, that guy can tell a story. He's so animated, man. My story. And then I go like, that very visceral response. You don't get very often with comics.
Man,
you don't get it. I know you won't say this about yourself, but I go, when you look around, even some of the massive acts, you don't get, sometimes you watch a comedy special, you walk away, you go, okay, well, it was the it thing to do. We spend $1,000 on the ticket. That happens on internationals all the time. They come here, we spend the money, but no one can tell you the joke about the time or the thing. Now with your stuff, there's always like, you told a story about you on a motorbike. I remember that. They are iconic bits.
Thank you. Firstly, that's a very lucky thing to tell a comedian, and I was always very lucky in that I was always a storyteller, and it just so happened that I had funny bones as well. So the storytelling always leaned into the funny thing. This was my whole life. This is not a new thing. Yeah. It's not only since I started stand up. This goes back to my primary school, high school. I used to tell jokes. That was my thing. I was cuck at everything else, to be very honest. I still am, actually.
You're good at businesses and you're good at comedy.
Well, and
great combo.
Well, I'm good at starting businesses. I really enjoy business. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy starting up something from nothing and then watching it go and stay on the rails.
Yeah.
That is always a big, pleasant shock to me,
Yeah.
And then stand-up is the one thing that I was always good at. Having said that, I never thought it would ever become a career choice. It was never, ever... when I was growing up, stand-up was not something that you made a living from doing.
Yeah.
Back then, it was almost impossible. So it was never... and I dared to dream about being a comedian.
Of course.
And it's such a fantastic thing that I got to live that dream and do all that stuff. And then go back to Mitchell's Plain that night you were there.
Yeah.
I had such a blast.
Great.
And then, man, in all honesty, I booked a show there.
Yeah.
And then also, I must be honest, I didn't sell as many tickets as I was hoping to sell. You know,
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
I
yeah.
would have I would have gotten a better response from my own hometown. Having said that, I also realized it was during load shedding,
Many things.
and I had to cancel. It's the first show I've ever canceled in my life,
Yeah,
and the
it's
last
tough.
one.
Yeah.
And it was, what had happened was I was due to do a show on the Saturday night, and we had moved the show to a different room because there wasn't a couple of tickets sold, in all honesty. I mentioned that. And then the load shedding schedule changed from like 5 to 7, from 7 to 9. So now
this kills us, eh?
the organizers call me up and go, "Hey, Kurt, we've got a big problem here, because when the lights go out here, cuck happens in the dark."
Yeah.
Last week we had a that was stabbed in front of the school, my bro, because so we don't want to take the chance.
No.
I'm telling them, yes, but can't we move it to an earlier slot then? I'm like, then we have to, the posters on the poles already.
Yeah.
We can't change it to an earlier spot, because then who's going to show up? We're not sure if anybody's going to show up then.
Yeah.
So long story short, I had to do the cuckest thing I've ever done in show business, is to cancel a show.
Yeah, but I think you should go back. I do think that also what happens is, and this is maybe something you can touch on, you come from the time where, you come from different generations, where you come from a time before multi-choice was like a moersklotte channels.
Exactly.
Then you went from, you're famous, you start comedy, and then people's attention gets split. And then the phone comes in, and then the social media thing comes in. And so many times now, doesn't mean that you got a big social media following that's a quality act.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of, especially the marketing of shows, and I've been lucky in that way that I've been able to get, so it's sort of right, is on social media.
Yeah.
And the guys that are exceptional comedians aren't necessarily good at that damn thing.
Man, you know, I'm also finding that, you know, just like a stand-up comedy is a skill set, social media is a skill set.
100%.
You've got to learn this. You've got to develop this. And the truth of the matter is, you've also, the biggest part is you've got to be consistent with it. All the time, you've got to be consistent. I find myself at a bit of a deficit there, because I am a classic ADHD. Oh,
Yeah.
I've, what's it called? Neurodiverse.
Yeah.
I've always had a problem with focusing and getting
Yeah.
shit done properly, you know.
Yeah.
And I've always had good help to do so. But there's also an element to ADHD, for example, that is exceptionally good at taking on something that's unusual and making it work.
Yeah.
So it's been there've been pros and cons for neurodiversity.
Yeah.
I find it difficult to focus on the skill set of social media, especially the consistency of it.
Yeah.
And
that is you're certainly not the only one.
no,
And
that's for sure.
I'm very fortunate that this is it's like social media is a tick that I enjoy, but I do spend a lot of time looking
I can
at
imagine.
things beyond just what the content is, to when the content is posted, in what quality it's shot, like I spend about 12, 14 hours a day. I think I spend about 14 hours a day on social media and figuring out what works and what doesn't. Every day, all the time, to the point where my wife has to go, "Hey bro, it's time to put that thing down. Kids must eat, da 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 da." And I love social media, and I love comedy, and I love business. And I'm just lucky that those things have sort of come together. But even saying that, for the first good 5-6 years, nothing worked.
Man,
Nothing worked.
I'm in a space right now where I take pieces of material and I cut it up.
Yeah.
And then I get 200,000 views on that.
Yeah.
Then I do something in traffic, like the other day, for example, and then 5 views. So it's like, I'm like, fuck it, what are you doing?
Dude.
I don't know. You know,
I had a breakthrough. I'll tell you about my breakthrough. And I think I actually may have said this to you before. I had a breakthrough. I was doing everything the way it's supposed to be done. And then in COVID, when I was flat on my back, I stopped caring. And then I would just turn that phone on and make a joke, or tell a story, or be heartbroken, or just be like, I don't have money right now. And when I started being that bluntly honest with people. Like, I don't do take two. That's when things started to pick up.
That's what I find is the stuff that works best that I put out as well, is that organic honesty.
Yeah.
Where the audience, they don't feel like they're being sold something.
And you can feel it.
And you can even feel it yourself.
Yeah.
When you're frustrated and angry and you're like,
Yeah, yeah. I did a video, like videos that stand out. I did a video one day where my wife was calling me. I was doing a gig in Cape Town. I still there, living in Joburg, and my wife texts me and she says, "Listen, man, we need XYZ for the month, for the bond, the school fees, And then I was like, I thought I did okay this month, and I was broke. And I was so angry and frustrated. And I thought, if I'm this frustrated and I think I've been doing well this month, what is the oak that's working, security or boom doing? And then I made this video where I was just like bluntly honest. I was like, how are people? And that thing went, and you don't expect it, but that thing went skyrocketed. And again, I think people connected with just the brutal honesty of things.
You know, so I'm afraid of a couple of things when it comes to social media. I'm quite a private host, strangely enough. And I like the privacy.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about getting too involved in it, eh?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a big risk of it because I mentioned to you that I'm quite cocky. So. But having said that, I'm afraid of being too public with it.
Yes.
There's an element of danger there.
Yeah.
But then also I feel frustrated that I'm not involved enough because it directly impacts my ticket sales.
100%.
So recently I had my Facebook page banned, right?
Yes, you called.
And I fought tooth and nail because I couldn't figure out what had happened.
Sure.
Somebody must have complained about something. But I think you know me well enough to know that I'm not going to put out anything.
It's pretty safe there on your page.
It's very safe there. I don't put out anything dodgy. I don't make any big political statements. I don't make any gender statements like that at all. I mean, also, I don't feel that way about people.
Yeah.
I generally get along with people quite lekker.
Yeah.
So I couldn't for the life of me understand who had gotten so pissed off with me that they made a complaint.
And it can't be one person. Because, I mean, if that was the criteria, I mean, there's guys out here, we all know in the public eye that's getting 100,000 people complaining their things don't get taken away. We don't know. You build this whole social media profile up, but people don't tell you that we're at the mercy of these guys. If they decide tomorrow something changes, we don't like Owens with the name Alf in it. You're gone. That's it.
So now there was
Audience is
something
gone.
like 40,000 people there that we interacted with, right?
It's a lot of people.
So now that's a big part of my audience there.
Yeah.
So now I've got no access to them anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have, for all intents and purposes, they think I disappeared.
Yes, people don't think of you every day.
Of course.
If my page just disappeared, oh, please don't. My page just disappeared. People don't go searching for you.
No.
You come into the feed.
Exactly.
They discover you, they follow, and then it comes again when it comes,
It's so bad. If I put my name into Facebook, it tunes me half a sec. It doesn't let me pass. I can't put my name in there, bro.
That's wild.
It tells me off. It's go away. You've been banned. So I'm like,
I was once banned from boosting or advertising on Facebook, which was also devastating because what had happened for a full year, all I could rely on is that, and you'll see in my bits, there were times where I would put the poster in the content because I couldn't pay advertising because they'd blocked me from paying for advertising. And so then I couldn't really reach all of the people that were following me anyway because they throttle every ad. So it's a mess, man. But on the other hand, it's this thing. And then on the one side is, remember how expensive it was to get onto a radio ad? So like if you're not on social media, at least that's something we can afford to do. Yeah. But getting a radio ad where it matters is an expensive exercise.
Man, so I know that they ban people from time to time for like 3 months or a month. I must have pissed somebody off big time. Bro.
You must have pissed off 10,000 people big time. I'm telling you that's a mistake on your thing.
There's no way I could have pissed them off.
Or there was a hack happening or something.
Man, here's the thing is, try and get in touch with Facebook.
No, it's
They
tough.
pass you around like a bank at a roadblock.
No,
bro.
my
You
friend,
just,
it's like standing in the queue at certain governmental offices on a
Yes.
Friday. Good luck.
No, come back next Friday.
Good luck.
So I've had a horrible time trying to get my Facebook page reinstated. But,
So listen, you don't have a Facebook page, but you do have a Instagram page.
I do have a Facebook fan page, which is
Yes.
is different.
Yes.
But there's a hell of a lot less followers. There's a lot less.
And it's Kurt Schoonraad.
Kurt Schoonraad, please go sign up, do
Please.
the thing.
Go and Kurt's doing
But
interesting
check out
stuff.
my Instagram page, Kurt.Schoonraad, or just Kurt Schoonraad. You'll get to the vibe there. And also Kurt Loves Cars. Please check that out.
Please check that out and go and check Kurt's, what's the show? Funny
Side Up. at
Funny
the
Side Up.
Baxter
I'm going to go watch
from
that.
the 17th of May. In fact, I'm going to go and watch Stewart Show next week.
Let's go together.
Let's go together, yeah.
Oh no, I'm going to Amsterdam with my wife.
I checked. You got a
Going
couple
to
of shows.
Amsterdam.
Man.
But when I'm back, I'm going to go and see.
I'm going to go
gonna
and
see Stewart.
support those Stewart. Stewart's a good mate of both of us.
Very good friend. Listen, thank you for coming. I want you to come. I want this to be like a first conversation. I'm going to call you back again.
You're welcome.
Down the line.
I would love to
And
come
then
back
we'll
again.
just talk about random things.
Man, I can't thank you enough. This is lekker having this chat. I love, I was telling you earlier, I've been watching your stuff. I checked the old Darren Simpson's,
Darren Simpson, yeah.
his episode out, and I just needed to get a feel for what you were doing. And yeah, his stories blew me away, bro.
Listen, like, I don't know what I'm going to get when people sit down, yeah? I just have a casual chat, and I will say, because me and Darren, and you, just like you and Darren, we always in comedy, man. And
yeah, we've known each other for long.
Darren told me things there that I never knew about him. And it was a very, very interesting conversation.
Since Darren's groundbreaking admission there about his brother, and thanks for sharing. I think I got to share something with you didn't know before I leave.
Tell me.
Something you didn't know. So about 15 years ago, maybe a little longer, I got hijacked in Joburg.
Oh,
On a set of gigs. I was there to do some shows.
yes.
And I was staying with a friend. What's the place? You know the Cat's Pajamas?
Yes, Melville.
Across the road from Melville.
Linden, just down the road.
It's with a field.
Auckland.
No. Other. I can't remember the place's name. But it's right across the road from Cat's Pajamas.
Yes.
There's a road that separates the one suburb from
Yes,
the other.
across the road from, there's a spa there.
Exactly.
And,
But what's that place called? What's that suburb
I
called?
can't have a friend that used to live there. I can't remember now.
Okay, now that area over there, I was staying with a Cape Townian friend of mine over there. And when I say hijacked, I wasn't in a car at all. I was stuck up in bed.
What?
I woke up to a figure standing over me. And I still greeted this oak because I thought he was a mate, you know. Because we was like a commune type of, there's 3 other oaks living there.
Yeah.
And this oak stuck a gun in my face, bro. And took my shit.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I don't think I've had a proper night's sleep since then.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. So I am a chronic insomnia sufferer.
Is it?
I sleep with the light on.
Sleep with the light on.
I have to.
And the wife has to deal with this now.
My bro, she has to deal with some of that shit. There's a light on over there. She's, anyway, long story short, I haven't been the same man since, dude.
Dude, you know.
I mean, I haven't lost anyone, but it feels like I did, you know.
You know, that's my biggest fear. You know, thank goodness it's never happened to me. But since we've moved here, I'm security is like I spend money on security before food. I'm that scared.
Man, with that Joburg experience, what I can say is that it's highly unlikely to happen.
They didn't
here.
hurt you or anything.
Man, superficially, I got a couple of claps on the pip with a gun. You know what I mean? What was weird was, I think this is what caused the cuck, is that they put the blankets over my head. And every time he wanted to know something, he'd give me a knock on the head. So I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if it was going to stab me, shoot me, leave me. I don't know.
And how long is this experience?
Man, it felt like a half an hour. It could have been 3 minutes. I don't know.
All your chummies in there, all held up.
Man, I had a chummy that was in the room with me in another bed.
Mm.
He was experiencing the same thing I was experiencing. We're still mates today. And there was another friend in another room.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, who knew nothing about this. He woke up to us waking him up going, yeah, brah.
He was lucky.
And he was like, what? Anyway, and that's what happened, bro. And I must be honest, that was so traumatizing, man, that I can't remember having normal sleep since then. But I never had a sleeping problem before then.
No, well, that will do it. That's very traumatic, man.
It's hectic.
That's
so when
traumatic.
you say you're South African and that you've lived through shit and you've seen a bit of crime and
Yeah.
but listen, I grew up in Mitchell's Plain, my brother. There was a whole lot of cuck going on there.
Yeah.
And I got robbed every day, but it was in broad daylight. I knew what was going on. But this blanket over your head, cuck, it feels like I never got out from under that blanket, my bro.
Dude, you know, we've got a million stories like that. But I want to end this on a happy note. Thank you for that story, though.
Cheers, bro.
But I want to end this on a happy note. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, bro.
I will have you here again. And now we must live down the road from each other, man.
Yeah, no, it's not so far at all. You don't have to take a plane to get there.
I don't know. Then normally I'd have to take a plane and say, Kurt, are you available? Then we sit there, talk for hours, and now I'm down the road and don't see each other.
Lekker. But thank you so much.
Thank you,
Lovely.
sir.
Love your stuff. And I can't wait to see more of it.
Let's have a coffee before you go.
Cheers, my bro.